Hey guys, what's up? This is Chase Thompson from the Note MBA Podcast and now the Note MBA YouTube channel. In this first episode of the show, we talk about how Robby went from $0 to $1 million in real estate UPB. We talk about an entrance into the note business, both from a downsizing perspective for myself and from a borrower's perspective for Robby. And we talk a little bit about a JV conversation I had over a cup of coffee that led to a pretty sweet deal. Check out the episode. Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. And as always, you can head over to notemba.com or notemba.com/iTunes to hear the podcast when they come out.
First, seconds, performing, non-performing? What the f***? Note buyers, when it seems like you're in this business alone, know Chase, Robert, and the rest of their tribe are at it every week. They're bringing updates from their own note businesses as they work to find, fund, and finish deals. Follow along as they share their grassroots education with you, tuition free. If you'd like to know more about what they do and to download the entire back catalog, check out notemba.com. Now, here are your hosts, Chase Thompson and Robert Woods.
Hey everybody, welcome to the inaugural episode of Note MBA. I am your host, Chase Thompson, joined by my co-host, Robert Woods, coming to us live from, pretty much all the way on the other side of the planet. Tell me exactly where you're at. Load that up for me.
I am out in Chiang Mai, Thailand, northern Thailand. Got a view of the mountains off of the back patio of my apartment. And it's actually some people that are in with the internet marketing group, the digital nomad, will know that Chiang Mai is a pretty big hub for location-independent entrepreneurs. So I figured I'd throw my hat in the ring and see what the city had to offer.
So right off the top, just so everybody kind of knows, the Note MBA podcast is going to be about exactly that. It's going to be about how to start, grow, understanding the business of notes. It's just this kind of organic, kind of grassroots movement to understanding the business of what a note investing is and what it can do for someone from portfolio diversification to a full-on, this is what I do, right? So to get hooked up with you and the space that I know pretty well, which is that kind of digital nomad space, those guys really specialize in almost internet products or information products. You're doing it very differently from I'm investing back in the United States, but I'm living over here, right? So that's a fascinating thing to me. That's why I wanted to get hooked up with you to kind of do this podcast to kind of get that perspective.
Yeah, man. For me, being in Thailand, the opportunity to travel, it's about geo arbitrage. But the great thing about it is, I think for us with Note MBA, is showing people that, in our positions, you can take the leap and actually make this succeed. But I really want people to follow along and see what we do. Watch me trip while I'm trying to run this marathon.
Follow along with us as we kind of learn to do it two different ways while doing it the same way, right? Supporting two totally different visions of what a investment business can be for somebody, I think is fascinating. And as much as I would love to be in, how did you say it?
Chiang Mai,
Thailand.
I'm actually going to have to send you a postcard so you know how to spell it.
Yeah, you got to do that. We'll have to link up literally exactly where you're at in the show notes. As much as I would love to be there, my wife is a family-oriented, huge family. And so being over here stateside is something that I love and I enjoy thoroughly. And so being able to use notes as a vehicle for kind of achieving both of our goals, I think is fascinating. So let's dive in on your background. Let's go you first, then me, because I'm the host, and so I get to dictate which way. No, I'm kidding. So let's dive on. What is your background? When we met at Noteworthy this year, 2014, immediately I was like, this guy knows what's up. And so give the listener the 411 on why I was like, all right, I need to hang out with this guy.
Well, before that, one thing that's great about it is, like you said, we just met at Noteworthy, which is a great thing to talk about for some other people to pay attention to your network and getting out there to network with people. We met a month ago. We got a podcast going already. it's amazing what you can put together if you put your head down and just get going with it. But the reason
3 of those
maybe you
weeks of
think
that month, by the way, you were like vacationing.
I was in Tokyo and Hong Kong for the bulk of it. So I've been on the road.
I don't know if our listeners are quite hearing you, but that is like can I do like hashtag humble brag, right? Like just kind of like traipsing about the world. No. That's super cool. And you're right. We did just meet. Taking action. I mean, it speaks to kind of what I think will be some undertones and some themes for this show and the things that we're going to try to move through in our own businesses, thus trying to help others.
Well, I guess the great background to where I've gotten so comfortable with notes is one of those great opportunities to stumble, fall, and pick yourself up. Being a little precocious might be a kind word for myself, but always kind of curious with stuff. I bought my first real estate property when I was in college and bought it with a good friend of mine. We bought a townhouse, not the best neighborhood, but hey, it was home. The long and the short of it, that was 2006. And, fast forward a couple of years to the market crash. We were fresh out of college, new jobs, not in the position to float the mortgage on this property that we were upside down, probably about $80,000 on, which was more than we were each going to make that year. And we kind of got together with each other and said, this isn't for us. Everybody else is doing it. Let's, we'll pay the taxes. We'll keep insurance on it. A lot of that was because we weren't sure what was going to happen. We thought we were going to get in trouble for not paying taxes at the time. And just let the property go and stop paying the mortgage. And that was in 2000 and the end of 2008, really. And
so
to be honest,
did y'all scoop it up whenever the market was not doing well, or did y'all actually get a pretty good deal on it? Things changed.
Oh, we bought that baby in 2006. Basically,
yeah. Wow.
We'll call it 6 months before the peak of the market in Florida. I mean, if you wanted to time a bad real estate investment at 22 years old, that was what we did.
Give Robbie a call in 2006, and he knows exactly when to time that up.
Yeah, you want someplace to dump some money. I had the perfect property for you. And we just didn't know. We'd never bought a house before. We were young and anxious, and we thought that this was going to be the great start of things. And little did we know. And hey, we did what a lot of people did. Some people have got opinions on it. My opinion is that I took advantage of the situation, and it took some stress off my shoulders. So I don't have any grief about it today. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, so 2012, I get a phone call. It's a kind of a weird phone call, and this guy's telling me that he owns the mortgage on my property in Florida. And I'm like, well, that's great for you, man. What do you want me to do? And we just had a conversation about it. He said he wanted to get the property back. And I was like, well, what do I need to do? He tells me he just needs to sign a couple pieces of paper. The guy is even nice enough to tell me if I don't have the $20 to pay a notary, he'll send somebody out for me. And I'm like, cool, not a problem, man. I'll get my buddy on the phone. Let me have a conversation with him, and we'll get this thing signed. And we got it signed. I got it to him. And probably, I didn't think about it. I was happy to be rid of the house. And 5 or 6 months later, I was like, well, who was this guy? So I got onto YouTube, got onto Google, found him, tracked him down, and found out, he was one of the number one guys in the note business. And I gave him a call and was like, hey, we talked a couple months ago. You got my property. Would you teach me how you do this? Like, I'm really a smart guy. The story was we bought this in 2006. I wasn't, I didn't rent it out. I didn't steal all your copper. He was actually really surprised. We left stainless steel appliances in there. He was like, you've got granite countertops. The place was immaculate when you handed it over to us. And I was like, well, yeah. It's like, we're not jerks. We just didn't want to pay the mortgage. Like a lot of people, we just got in a spot and didn't want to pay it. But he actually was just like, you know what? Yeah, I've got a class. Come out to it if you're interested. You don't even need to pay for it. He's like, I'd be happy to teach you about what I did if it's going to help you out. And
yeah,
that was 2013. The end of 2013 got that business started. Next Gen Coastal, and you check out our About Us page. And fast forward nearly to the end of 2014, and we picked up about $1 million worth of real estate this year.
Wow. So your background with it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you also own 2 traditional pieces of real estate now. Just kind of,
yeah.
Right? Go ahead.
I've got a loft out in Las Vegas, that is rented out, thank goodness. And then I've got another property in Titusville, Florida. And actually, we should have another one here in another 2 weeks down in Tampa, Florida. So we've got stuff that's been interesting, developing the rental portfolio and finding about the fantastic tenants, toilets, and termites, which is all part of the business. But it's been good.
So, yeah, I mean, your background within Notes, I mean, I know a lot of people that, might be listening to this or that kind of consume real estate investing information. They're coming from that fix and flip or buy and hold or something like that. And you kind of have that background, but your background really is your note got sold to a note buyer. And, that is a tremendous intro into the business. I mean, that is being introduced to the gun from the barrel's end, right? I mean, that is crazy to think about. And when you actually told that story on stage at Noteworthy, it was tremendously impactful, I think, for a lot of people there. And sharing it again here, I mean, that's crazy to think about now. In general, is that your motivation now, right? Like finding, not necessarily going out and looking and trying to find people in necessarily the position you were in, but the knowledge that what that person's is walking through. You know what they're thinking. You know what I mean? That is something that I could say from a level of empathy that I might have, that I could say those things. But I mean, you really walked in those shoes, and that's crazy to think about for me.
Without a doubt, to be honest, I mean, to what you said, that was one of the changing points in my life. I won't have a choice but to look back at the opportunity I was given to get rid of that property. Was such a relief for me at the time that it's interesting, the compassionate standpoint. It's still a business, but man, we're not doing this to throw people out of their houses. If you want to stay and you can pay, let's work something out. I'm here to help you out. I to be honest, don't want to own your house in the middle of Warren, Ohio. You live there. Yeah. You've got your furniture in there. I don't want to own the place. Just pay your mortgage. Let's work something out. At the end of the day, I mean, the opportunities that are in the marketplace right now, it's your responsibility to help some of these people. Just because we're getting such good deals out there, I feel like, you listen to some of the other guys we surround ourselves with. You got Mark Gold with American Home Recovery Fund, the stuff that they do. I mean, these guys are all doing stuff, whether it's charity involvement or just helping homeowners stay in their house. We're all part of that community, and we need to be responsible for it.
So speaking kind of to that, I guess, the idea of, helping out the community, but it still is a business and all that kind of stuff. What is it, because it is still a business, what do you think it is about this business, even now kind of being on literally both ends of it, that seems to be such a difficult thing for people to tease out from it? And I'm talking specifically to people that are listening to the show that are either new to the note business or haven't dove in, that have a real estate investing background. What do you think it is that makes it such a weird business for people to jump into?
I think what it is that people get hung up on the actual physical property, which is an important aspect of evaluating the deal, but they forget that they're buying paper and they're dealing with emotions some of the time. The great part about note investing is you've got so many different exit strategies that you can handle these notes in so many different ways. You may have an emotional play if there's a homeowner that's got equity built into their property and they've been there forever. You may have a vacant property that's nothing, and it's completely just an aspect of looking at black and white financials and controlling it with 30 pieces of paper from the mortgage and the deed, and it's as easy as just taking it to foreclosure.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is people get hung up on the physical property, and they go, well, do I want to own this house? And that's what they're thinking about, as opposed to, do the numbers in this deal work 5 out of 4 different ways, or 4 out of 5 different ways, as opposed to maybe I only have one exit strategy if you're a fix and flipper, which is fix the house and sell it, or fix the house and sit on it.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
Pay your hard money guy,
yeah.
13, 14%, whatever he's making on the back end.
Fascinating. And so speaking of the holding on to a property for with 30 pieces of paper, that's actually my background. My background was 7-8 years in the mortgage industry as a loan originator and business development and all these kinds of things. I was just on the tail end of kind of what was happening, and then, kind of came into the rest of it and kind of came into all the regulations and everything that kind of came on the back end of that. And the reason why I even know about Notes is because one of the bigger kind of trainers, the guy that you were just talking about within this space, Scott Carson, he actually had me out at one of his first events in 2012, 2011, something like that, to teach the technology, social media component of his class, because that's kind of where my background is, and the video component, things like that. And of course, I came out to the class, I taught it, everything was great, answered a ton of questions, it went really well. I just was not smart enough to see the opportunity at the time. And
oh, come on, man, you're a smart guy. What's the real reason? Tell me. So, you were just asking me, why didn't you jump in? What happened?
So I didn't jump in because I think what I had going for me at the time, and it came back to bite me, which is why I'm here now, is I think if you're listening to this and you're driving or you're running on your, you're on a run or you're at your desk, you're working, whatever, and you're sitting at a job where you're making $32,000, you might be in a place where you don't think you have enough money to do this or whatever, but making the leap isn't too crazy. But when you're sitting in a job where you're getting paid really well and things are going extremely well and all this other stuff, it is extremely difficult, no matter how great the opportunity sounds, to jump. I was right in a transition of my life, getting married, buying the house, having our first child, like these things. And so for me, it looked great, but I was not brave enough, you know what I mean? Like, I did not have it in me at the time to go and take a leap for what, right? Like, I had a great paying job. I had a great opportunity, or what I thought was that, which ended up, not being the case and coming, full circle to bite me right in the, anyway.
Hey, do me a favor. Think about it this way. I got a question for you. Do you think it would have been different? Now, you can't go back and change it, obviously, but if you had something like this podcast, or you had a mastermind group, or you had surrounded yourself on a regular basis with people that were doing this, and you could see that it's a real thing, whether you're making $32,000 a year or $150,000 a year, that you have the ability to play in this marketplace. Do you think that would have made a difference for you?
I think it's true. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find your new room, or, I'm not a huge fan of you're the sum of the five people you hang out with, I guess. And I think it's mostly just because I've been hanging out with the wrong people for a large portion of my life. And so I just didn't want to believe it, but I can't sit here and say that those things aren't true. I mean, you just, there's a reason why, those big painters that were part of the Renaissance period, those guys all started their own bit aside from what the typical galleries were doing, and they all became what they became. I mean, those guys were all together. There's a reason why, the Benjamin Franklins and all those people used to gather in, the pubs and things and do their bit. I think when you get people together, that continue to obviously push each other and do these types of things or whatever, then that there's that catalyst mentality. There's you push others, others push you.
You think that's some of the Seth Godin, if you listen to him or you've read his stuff on tribes.
Yeah, right, sure, exactly. Which
is a great resource.
Tribes is tremendous. And so I think that at the time I was I had a pretty decent little show that we were doing on YouTube, and it was my business was going really well and things like that. And the people that I was necessarily with or what have you, that was it, right? Like I was there, not like there, but for my age, blah blah blah, these other things, I was there. And so the opportunity for me was to go and speak and teach on these things I was really knowledgeable about, as opposed to going off and starting my own business or trying to take control of what was an opportunity for me, And so, come full circle, I end up running into Scott at an event when things aren't going so well in my life within the corporate structure of business. And I fully believe that the disintegration kind of the middle class is going to continue to happen over the next decade. And people that are listening to this show that are in the position I was in that middle class spot, you need to take action somewhere. If this isn't it, right? It's like
40-hour a week, 2-week vacation, and don't forget you need to ask your boss if you want to take the 2 weeks off.
Oh, it's insane. If you don't go into notes, right? Like do whatever, just do something, because like I slowly saw everything I was working towards and everything I was working at completely just disintegrate. So, and I know that all kinds of people are seeing that, right? So for me, running into Scott, seeing the opportunity here, and then just like we talked about already, just taking action and moving forward. And so I think like go ahead.
And you've got a note now.
I do have a note now. No, yeah. So I was so what happened was I went to a note class, to kind of learn about it, to learn how to do all the things for it. And the very next week after I got back from that class, I came into work in a situation where all of a sudden I was making a third less than what I was making the week before with no explanation. Still no discussion about it, by time everything kind of all came to a head, and pretty much job was over. Mm-hmm. So I went through this phase of about 3 months of just depression, and could not get out of a funk. And it was a very strange place for me to be in. And then randomly, got a call from someone on the on the mentorship thing that I had paid for. I was a part of a mentorship mastermind, and I didn't even go to anything because I was just so like, my life is over. I have no idea how I'm going to feed my baby and my wife, and do these things. And I just randomly just sent my coach a text message, and I said, "Hey, I'm in this. I just want you to know." Just something clicked, and I just said, I'm still in it. What do I need to do, right? And so
the fog is starting to clear.
Right.
You're ready
he
to
just
come
was
out of
like,
the fog.
He said, okay. And didn't really, he didn't give me a ton of steps or anything. And really, he didn't reach out to me. And I understand, like, if I was paying for coaching, then a lot of people would say there's got to be someone there to pull you up. And I almost feel like the lack of it almost was better for me, for my personality, was better. Right. But, after that funk, after everything was all said and done, I think it was like a week and a half later, and I had my first note. I had my first private investor that wanted to JV some deals with me. It was a guy I had never met prior. I started reaching out to contacts and moving forward.
You just said JV, which is, I think, a great thing to go over. And another thing to highlight for anybody that's listening. So you got a joint venture partner. You got somebody else that had a little bit of cash, didn't have the time, didn't find the deal. And you were able to get into this deal with how much of your own money?
Well, none, unless you count the coffee I paid for when he and I met, and I talked about going over what was the, going to be the deal. So roughly $350. It's decent a cup of coffee.
$350. You've gotten your cup of coffee back yet, right? I'm pretty sure you've gotten your cup of coffee
tremendously back. Yeah. So now we've got a bid on another 5 property pool, another 5-note pool that will hopefully pull down, and then I'll be at 6 in a matter of no time. Right, like boom, 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 boom. And so, just like yourself, I mean, you're sitting at a little over $1 million, right? In
notes,
in notes. So it's something where if you sit and you really can dissect it and kind of get after it, which is again the reason for starting this podcast. Your perspective is this interesting geo arbitrage type perspective. Mine is I had to escape this cubicle farm situation. And they both have this really interesting kind of overlap of taking control of your life. I mean, right, in my opinion.
No, definitely, man. I think that's where, when we were talking about putting this podcast together for people who are listening, it's always good to have somebody else's point of view. I'm running around single and fancy free for the most part, and you're married with a child and another happy, healthy baby on the way.
Sure.
But at the same time, in the world, as I kind of put it out there, we're that same group of best friends that everybody has. Everybody's got that one guy that's married and the one guy that's single, and they're like, wait a second, if they both can get at it and succeed at the same thing, what are we doing? Why are we sitting here unhappy? Why am I sitting in my car for an hour on the 405 in LA every day? It's just like, you don't have to do it. I think that's the biggest thing, is that for people to realize and reinforce.
Yeah. And, for me, I started the business, even though my job was kind of like in jeopardy when I came back or whatever. I was able to do quite a bit after I pulled myself out of whatever it was I was in, while still having a 9 to 5. I had a little bit more freedom than I think most people have in the job that I had, but at the same time, still able to accomplish a tremendous amount while still maintaining what was essentially a full-time job. So it really is that potential side business, right? It's that without having to do, I know a lot of people that I was talking with before I got into the note side of the business from a real estate investing side, they were wanting to do a side fix and flips, wanting to do side, buy and hold strategies and things like that, which is great and awesome. And, go at it, full force. You need to take control and take action. But for me, notes was one of those things where I could really, coming from my mortgage background, I really understood it, but I could really not autopilot it, but run it as a true side business without having to talk to contractors and doing different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know what I love about you saying it's a side business? You know what I think a lot of people misunderstand, and I think it's something for another day for us to talk about. But the ease of putting automation into this business, whether you're using a virtual assistant, whether you've got the right systems. But, you talk about a side job, 4 or 5 hours a day. Come on, man. I know enough people that come home and watch 3 hours of TV every night. I used to watch 4 or 5 hours of TV a day. When I was in a bad spot, you couldn't take me away from Netflix. You'd get your fingers broken.
Well, and the big thing is to understand, talking about that, you can find the 4 or 5 hours a day. I think the living kind of testament to that is the fact that right now it's literally 12 hours. Is it tomorrow or earlier today? It's
tomorrow.
So it's like 12 hours tomorrow where you're at, and it's the evening where I'm at, and I'm hustling late, you're hustling early. And if you had to go to a job at 8, let's say right now, right? Like, so let's say you had to go to a job in an hour, right? You had to go get ready. You still could have done that. And and for me, I just got off, right? Let's say I just got off work at 5, and now I'm able to get in and start getting in this business, start hustling. So the hustle factor, if applied tremendously to this business, is an exponential opportunity for sure. And kind of from a first episode standpoint, I would say if you're listening and you are at all, in somewhere in those categories, if you find yourself in that, 9 to 5, or wanting to do some traveling and be a little bit more, and still be able to run a business. I mean, I cannot tell you how hard it sounds to me to run a standard fix and flip business from Thailand. I don't know how hard that would be, but I can imagine it wouldn't be.
So far, it's been pretty easy.
Yeah, from a note standpoint, right?
Yeah, it's been good. There's obviously challenge you have every now and again. My credit cards keep getting shut off, so it's kind of a fun thing, but you deal with it. It's like any other business. It's any other job. I just get to be the boss. And the best thing is that if I work hard, I get to play hard. And if I decide I don't want to work hard, well, at the end of the month, I look at what I've earned, and it's kind of being like, oh, probably should have done a little bit more work. So it's self-motivating.
I think we'll have to do some episodes where we break down your monthly financials, because I think for a lot of people that will be a really interesting thing to look at, to go, well, I make my $3,000 bit here every month at my 9 to 5, or 4,000 or 5,000 or whatever, right? And I don't think I have enough to travel, or whatever, right, or whatever the case is, and being able to break down it cost me X dollars a month this month to be in 4 different countries. I think that's going to be a fascinating episode to always break down.
I think we'll do that in December. It's kind of funny you said that. I've been tracking, and I've actually been really good at it. I haven't missed anything yet. My expenses since I got here to Chiang Mai, because I took an apartment. I actually rented an apartment, signed a lease. Most of it was in English. Some of it was in Thai. So hopefully I don't have any issues when I move out. But I think that'd be a great thing to go over and really be able to break down that wall for people, whichever side of the fence you're on, to it's too expensive to travel, or how do you run a business and travel and keep your mind at least clear and focused on not going out and trying to find every European traveler that you can find at the bar next door.
Sure, and but not just run a business that, from an investment standpoint, I mean, the returns on my first deal were much better than I had expected. And I think as this, podcast matures, we will start to go over things like that. But it was much better than I expected. If we're able to pull down this pool of 5, it will be tremendous. I'm sure yours are kind of the same way. It's not just running like an informational business or starting an app product or whatever. I mean, this is really something that I think a lot of people can sink their teeth into. That is real estate investment. They get it, right?
Yeah, man.
They just need someone to show them. And
you know what? I think it's going to be good for us to kind of, grab you by the hand and help people walk through believing that, it's as easy as getting your first note and getting your feet wet.
Oh my gosh, I could not agree more.
And if you don't like it, you got one note. You're into it for, that's the one thing too, is a lot of people don't understand whether you take outside investment from somebody that's got the money that isn't working, they've got sideline money, or you take 10 or 15 grand of your own money and put it out there. If you've got the right people behind you, one, you're not going to lose your money. You may not make a mint, but you're not going to lose your shirt either on it. And you'll get an education along the way. That's the best part about it as well.
Sure. So as we round out the first episode here of Note MBA, I mean, the biggest thing that I could impress upon anybody that is listening is that in the general sense, don't dive in too quick, but at the same time, as you kind of walk with us through this kind of learning of the business, the education level of the business kind of grows with us, with you, with that type of thing. You've got to be ready to actually take action. I missed out on the opportunity of taking action in 2011, 2012. When it was literally right in front of me. No, you're right. No question. Yeah. But
so you're doing it now. That's the best part. And the only other thing I would add to that is, like I said, it is about taking action. But, if you've got questions, get on the webpage, check out the show notes, and shoot us an email. Let us know what your questions are. Let us know how we can help. If there's something that you've been thinking and you don't want to ask it through an email. We won't say your name. We'll be happy to address it and see if we can get some answers out there for you.
But no. For real, though, like I know that a lot of people, because like I'm on some different real estate investing websites, forums and things like that. Notes to me is kind of that final weird Wild West frontier that a lot of people just are not super familiar with, because again, like you said, it's holding paper instead of property, but you are holding the property, but you're not. And so it's this really kind of weird, it's almost like people just can't quite get their head around it. That and not investing in your own backyard a lot of the time. And having to, my first note was in Ohio. I don't think I've literally ever stepped foot in Ohio. Things like that.
State. It's a great state. I love Ohio.
The great state of Ohio. Go
Buckeyes.
Go Buckeyes. Go Buckeyes. Go Browns. I don't. Anyway.
Browns are up there too. Cleveland Indians would just knock them all off. Isn't LeBron back up there too?
Boom. Hoyer. I love the Browns. I was going to pick him up for fantasy, but no. For me, I think that there's just it's very esoteric. It's very kind of a mystical, weird thing for people, and it almost seems like you can lose your shirt and you can get taken because you can't always put your hand on the side of the house, right? Yeah. And so, but again, walking you through that with kind of this podcast is walking you through the steps to be able to make sure you're doing the due diligence up front enough to get comfortable and pull the trigger. I think it's important.
At least find one or get somebody to work with, find somebody to joint venture, somebody that knows the business and have them help you with your first note deal and hold your hand through the whole thing. So, that's really what I think you and I are here to do and what we want to do, to show people that, and if the two of us can do it, and if I can do it if I can do it from Thailand, I got a face for radio. Everybody wonders why we're doing a podcast. If I can run this business from Thailand, I think most anybody can figure this thing out.
Yeah, I would say my skill sets are not. No, I'm kidding. No, you're right. I think that it's one of those things where I'm absolutely fascinated to see where the lessons we learn from how to automate your business from outside the country get applied to automation here for me locally and kind of vice versa. I'm infinitely interested to see where that goes. I think that's going to be a fascinating way to kind of continue to accelerate my business and the business of those that listen to the show. I'm infinitely excited about that. But anyway,
well, if you like the
yeah.
show, I want to, just make sure everybody stays tuned. We've got great stuff coming down the pipe, and I think that it's going to be an interesting ride. And I'm happy that I've got a front seat for it.
No, I agree.
At least a good view.
Yeah, if you like the show, guys, be sure to head over to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review. We appreciate it. Download the episode, send us feedback. Check us out on the website over at notemba.com. We'll have some cool things coming for you guys down the pipe. We're really excited. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Take care. Thanks, guys.